Hey everybody and welcome. This is Atomic Zero Addicted to Loot, and today we have a very special feature. We're going to be going through the gameplay walkthrough that was recently released by Total War or by CA or by Sega, however you want to call it, or whoever you want to follow. This is I think this is probably the most exciting thing I've seen about the recent Call of the Beastmen DLC, which I really haven't had a chance to cover at this point. I've been meaning to cover the cinematic debut trailer, but this is far more exciting. There's far more to it, and I think it's far better. So I'm just going to say I'll chalk that up to future planning, and I knew this was coming. Cough, cough. With that, let's just get into this. I'm going to fast forward just a little bit through here.
Warhammer Campaign walkthrough video. Today we're putting the feral race of the Beastmen under the spotlight and examining how they play. Now, the Call of the Beastmen DLC also comes with its own bespoke mini-campaign, An Eye for an Eye, which focuses on Kazrak the One-Eye's campaign of vengeance against his nemesis Boris Todbringer of Middenheim. With 52 regions and...
Okay, we'll stop it right here. So this new little mini-campaign, which is the first one we see, I mean, it's not unlike us to get DLCs It's not unlike us to get mini campaigns or different versions of campaigns within DLCs for Total War games. That's nothing new. However, this is the first one to get it for Total War Warhammer. I mean, we have no other faction that has a pseudo mini campaign line, and for the cost of the DLC and for what we're getting, I don't know if it's really worth it. I mean, there's 52 or 53 settlements from what they said, and I'm not even sure. Maybe it will change my mind if I see more of what this campaign is. It's just that if it purely is the same thing where you're going to have, your spawn, your stack, you follow your objectives, which is basically going to raise everything for the most part. You're mostly probably going to just fight humans from the looks of the long and short victory conditions. If there's far more like instant events that occur, maybe far more objectives that occur instead of like 2 or 3 random missions, maybe it becomes a little bit more like RPG-ish, where you're actually seeing, the origins of what Kazrak the One-Eye, I think, isn't it? Yeah, Warhead of the One-Eye. Yeah, so maybe it's worth it, but right now I would much rather just given us a complete faction add-on to the Grand Campaign, which ultimately I think is you get far more bang for your buck with. I mean, the only thing this minor campaign gives you is, it does give you a different variety. I mean, it definitely will break up some of the monotony if you're tired of just constantly wiping through the Grand Campaign with any one of these factions. So I think I'd much rather have a full army list and a full functioning Beastmen faction, but more to come on that.
Multiple factions to carve your way through. It's a substantial campaign in its own right, and we'll be looking at this in detail via live streams coming soon. But for today, we're focusing solely on the...
Okay, let's stop it right here. So we have Kazrak the One-Eye, which is our faction leader, one of the 2 legendary lords. We'll get to the other guy in a second. I always wanted to stop here to look at what we get with him. So we start in Astalia. That's pretty cool. We'll soon learn that the other guy does start out more into the Badlands. So 2 very unique starting locations. Awesome. I wonder if that's going to let us co-op Beastmen, because I know right now I don't believe we can co-op Chaos. So I wonder if we can actually co-op Beastmen now, which would be super cool to actually have 2 hordes roaming through the world of Warhammer and then finally meeting up to just lay siege to the rest of the world. Okay, with that, he gets 2 Gore Herd and a Minotaur. Awesome, I love the Minotaur. It's probably potentially going to be one of the better units, it is one of the more high-tier units, but like I was saying, more in terms of they're going to be the most enjoyable and probably going to be like more of my favorite unit for the Beastmen. Potentially, besides the Cygors and maybe the reskin of the Giant, but we'll wait and see. I like the Beastmen as a whole, just as a concept of how they play. But on top of that, both of the leaders get the top 2 here, so Horde armies don't suffer from infighting. We'll get to that more later. Bestial Rage penalties for positive diplomacy. If we're going to get that, if we're going to get a penalty for doing any positive diplomacy, I would much rather us just start out the game, everyone hates us, we're at war, and then just leave it where like the diplomacy option is almost just like basically non-functioning, where you just don't even have one. But anyway, so his 2 special traits is that income from rating plus 10% and leadership plus 5% versus humans. It doesn't say for all army, so I'm assuming that's just for him. Even if both of these are just him, it will help you early on, but it's going to fall off pretty quickly.
Beastmen and their race mechanics in the context.
Okay, so Malagor the Dark Omen. His starting unit, so we got Chaos Warhounds, meh. Gores, I think they're only going to be Gores. I don't think those are BC Gores, so I think these are just standard Gores with shields, also kind of meh. But you do get a Giant, and I think in their actual army list it's listed as a Chaos Giant, but I believe it is a reskinned Beastman Giant, but it still functions exactly like a Giant. That's kind of cool because it kind of mirrors like the Varg heist that you get within the Vampire Counts, getting that one big uber starting unit. So that's kind of cool. He also, like I said, starts down in Southern Badlands near Blightwater. His two things, Bray Shaman +1 capacity, meaning I wonder if that means, I guess once you recruit or once you build the very first Bray Shaman building, you can instantly get 2 instead of just 1. That's really nice. Campaign movement range +10%. That will always factor into it, especially since I don't know if I wonder if you can get the standard campaign movement range bonus, which most people do within the first level of leveling a Lord or Legendary Lord character. So I wonder if you can really get 20% versus 10%, but that remains to be seen.
To the Grand Campaign itself. So there are 2 starting positions for the Beastmen on the Grand Campaign, depending on which legendary lord you choose to play with. Malagor the Dark Omen begins play down here in Blightwater, but we've chosen to play this campaign with Kazrak the One-Eye at the helm, who starts out at war with different factions in Istalia here, which is kind of nice as well, as it's not an often visited part of the world. The Beastmen are a horde faction, of course, and we started out with 2 hordes in play, though we've already had one wiped out in our war with Istalia, so we're down to Kazrak and his beastly followers. After exacting revenge and smashing Istalia to bits, we move north into the lands of Bretonnia, where we've been levelling up Kazrak and improving his horde infrastructure by raising minor settlements. However, the furtive fiends of Musalon have been taking advantage of our rampant raising and...
Advantage meaning they took over this one settlement.
And have quickly recolonised many of the ruins, so they're next on the hit list. We've just raised the city of Montfort to the ground, and we're right at the end of a turn here, hence Kazrak being out of action points and all greyed out.
So let's see what he has. He has Gore Herd, a ton of them. Gore Raiders, which are, look, they're definitely in, I believe, tabletop, they're the only range unit, but it seems like we might actually have some slight, potentially skirmishing, quote-unquote, cabs, which is like the centaurs with throwing axes. So they might have more than that, but in tabletop, the Gore Raiders are almost completely ineffective with bows. So if I was going to role play this, I almost would have almost none of these guys. And then, of course, you have 4 Minotaurs, which are amazing.
But before we end turn, let's recruit a new Beast Lord, as it's high time we started getting a new horde up to speed.
Okay, so when we look at... Pause, darn you. It looks like they're going to have very similar positive and negative traits as all the rest of the guys. I was hoping that maybe they'd have, like, a different brand or a different variety of it, but nitpicking.
Now you may notice that unlike Chaos armies, these 2 hordes aren't causing each other attrition even though they're side by side. Now that's because all units in the Beastmen roster enjoy this particular trait, resilience, which makes them immune to horde infighting. Now this is kind of a big deal as it really promotes a more cooperative playstyle between your hordes. You'll find your...
And this is actually really uber cool. I love this aspect of the Beastmen, and it's lore friendly. I mean, the Chaos factions, you could say that they're always going to infight because they're technically kind of worshipping different gods, or they all think one another is better. But it's kind of, the Beastmen are, I wouldn't say they're like the Greenskins, but if you look at it, a Beastmen, as long as they're fed, as long as they have booze, and as long as they're fighting, they are happy. So they have really no reason to fight within one another. That doesn't mean that they won't smack each other around every once in a while, but they're not known for being completely ruthless to one another. So I like that. It's going to be really nice, especially for this reason he's going to come up with, which is basically you can spawn an army and just have them trail behind you, basically stealing XP, and then finally getting strong enough where they can just leave, or maybe you could sack a settlement, and then they can raise a settlement, or what have you, even though they only have 2 options post-battle. But I mean, I can see much better opportunities here with this kind of gameplay setup.
yourself using hordes in tandem a lot more often, and it also means you can shadow an established horde with a youngling beast lord like Armu Doombringer here, who'll soak up some XP from the victories and build up those all-important growth points over time, enabling him to kickstart his horde infrastructure when the time comes.
And if you notice there, they only, at least in this slot, they only had 3 building paths available, and I think that's correct when we get to the building path later on, but I'll double check.
Okay, so a bunch of stuff is happening this turn, and this really epitomizes the variety and rapid flow of bonuses you'll enjoy in a Beastman campaign. First off, rather like the Greenskins fight.
Sorry, I got click happy there. When they say rather like the Greenskins, they mean exactly like the Greenskins. They use almost the exact same meter, gave them a different banner, gave it a different name, but it's exactly the mechanic like the Greenskins. You fight enough, you get a free stack. Once again, I love it. It makes sense with the Beastmen. It plays right into the horde, but don't say it's like the Greenskins, just call it what it is and just say that we use the same function.
In this meter, Beastmen hordes have a bestial rage rating. As they raid and fight, this rises, and when it peaks, a Bray herd will spawn and join the cause. A fresh, full-fat stack of stinky, hairy Beastmen Doombringers to do your bidding. And we've also just completed an objective as we've raised our 8th settlement, netting us a tidy 7,000 favour. Okay,
so this is a special function for the Beastmen, which I actually like. Some people have issue with it because now it kind of refutes EA's take, on the whole... CA's, not EA's. CA's take on the whole, we don't have seasons now, when this whole point of this moon is that every once in a while, this moon up here, if you stop bouncing up and down like a Jack Russell fucking terrier, as it rotates, as you move on, as you end turns, it keeps on changing. Eventually, you're going to keep on getting to these dark moon events where you actually can choose. I don't know if they're going to be the same 4, because if they're the same 4, we'll see in a second. I don't see... It'd be nice if these rotated. If it's the same, 3 or the same 4 options, I don't know. It might get kind of tiresome, or it might just be that in a few turns you can get the benefit of one of these 3. I would hope it would change, but it remains to be seen. This is nice because it does break up the monotony a little bit more for the Beastmen. It does add a special little, I think, a little touch, a little flair to them, if you will. So I think this is cool. It makes sense for the Chaos, because it's a Chaos Moon that they're worshipping. All well and good.
So this is a point of interest. As the Chaos Moon Morsley becomes ascendant in the night sky, Beastmen hordes gather in dark acts of worship, and when this happens, you'll have to direct them in how to do so. Each of these options has a cost and a benefit. So, for example, you may choose an activity...
So here's the first one. Evasion chance when using Beast Path, -10, meaning you'll probably get intercepted more often if you're using your... basically the same thing as your underway travel. Figured in battle tired, that for 4 turns, the fact that you can never fight rested, that's a big gamble for me.
That reduces your leadership if you're not planning on fighting it.
Next one, okay, Bestial Rage -5. I mean, that's not terrible. You might either not get a Bray Herd or to lose one. Ammunition for Ungors and Centigore units. This is the only reason why I think they're skirmishing calves with the Centigores. But minus ammunition for Beastmen, realistically, if they were, put into this game like they were put into the tabletop, wouldn't mean diddly, because no one in the Beastmen army ever wants to use a bow, and if they do, they're shit at it.
Anytime soon, say, in exchange for increased replenishment to heal your troops back up. Now, the moon travels in a constant cycle, so what this does is adds a sort of rhythmic pulse to your campaign, with a cycle of benefits that, at the right price, can really improve your circumstances. Let's choose an activity and we'll see the outcome in a turn or 2, although, worth noting, we've actually just changed this so that in the final version, you'll get the effect immediately after making your choice in the dilemma.
Okay, so you get the effect as soon as you choose it. We'll see that the effect that they get only lasted 1 turn, so you instantly get to choose how this is gonna... Well, you don't get to choose how it's gonna function, but you instantly get to see if your gamble pays off. I like that. I think it's far more fitting, considering if you're thinking that they're doing all these ceremonies at that night the moon comes up. Of course, it's going to be the next day.
Okay, let's select our Bray Herd, and we're going to send them over to begin sieging Castle Bastone. And it looks
Let's
like...
see what their Bray Horde is filled with. Gore Herd, Centigores, looks like Standard Gores. I think those are Gores as well. Gore Herd. Oh, are those chariots or are those just Razor Gores? I think those are Razor Gore chariots. Nice. Centigores, great weapons. Centigores, melee. Chaos Warhounds, Minotaurs. And is that more Minotaurs? Looks like maybe that looks like more than a Minotaur, but I think it's just a melee Minotaur maybe.
Lone Bretonnian generals hoved into view, which presents an opportunity for our new Beast Lord to pick up some easy XP. And while we're not at war with them right now, Bretonnia is definitely on our list of factions to destroy in our objectives. So this seems like a good opportunity to get the party started. We're currently in the right stance for the job, and stances are another aspect in which the Beastmen...
I know we might not be able to see it because of the way my screen capture is working right now, but so your standard stance, meaning your quote-unquote non-marching, your completely based stance, is Beastman Ambush, meaning that standard attacks go in as ambushed procs, which is amazing. I love that. It is huge for the Beastmen. I mean, it gives them, it makes them what they are. I mean, they're Beastmen. They're meant for ambushing. They're meant for guerrilla tactics. So every time they attack, it's a chance to ambush. Of course, minus sieges. But that is super, super cool, especially considering almost all their units, or they said the majority of their units, will have Vanguard deployment, meaning even if you don't get the ambush, because I think if you have an ambush, your deployment range is so close to your enemy, it doesn't make a difference if you have Vanguard. But if you go in for attack, don't get the ambush, and then have let's say 3/4 of your units in Vanguard, oh, that's going to be so much fun as soon as you hit the start button.
And differ from everybody else. Your standard movement stance is Beastmen Ambush, which gives you a chance of initiating an ambush battle simply by approaching and attacking an enemy. Kazrak also has a unique skill which improves his chances of ambush battles kicking off, reflecting his mastery of guerrilla warfare.
So you get plus 8% chance Lord's Army, plus defense chance, so you can see armies better, you can prevent against ambushes, and you get a plus 8. Okay, pretty cool.
Fair. Hidden Encampment is your standard encampment stance in that it aids troop replenishment and makes the army immune to attrition.
I like this just because you can almost gamble. You could just do a huge fight. Maybe you take on 2 or 3 stacks, you win, but most of your units are almost like quarter health. You could risk just staying put, going into a encampment stance, and just let people move around you without seeing you. I don't know, because it would then allow you to, as long as it doesn't say, so it would allow you to start healing up same turn, and then you wouldn't have to move. You don't have to give up your position. I could see some pretty cool things happening there, even though I guess maybe some of us would just force move away, but I like the fact that it's instantly hidden.
However, it also makes you invisible to nearby forces, and if they draw close they may spot you, but it's a great way to slink into the undergrowth and heal after a big battle. Beastmen can also supplement their income with raiding, and you'll spend a lot of time in the stance, roving from region to region and extracting dark favour as you go. And finally, Beastmen can access the hidden beast paths. Now, like the Dwarfen Underway, this is a secret network of pathways known only to the Beastmen.
I'm hoping these pathways are only in forest pathways, not you can trigger it here, sprint through the mountain, and then pop out the other side. I was hoping it would just be for all almost all empire-based, all land-based movement, but we'll have to wait and see.
Deceptions and ambush battles are played out in one of a range of new Beast Path battle maps, which we'll be taking a closer look at later this week. For now, though, let's take a pop at Bretonnia, declaring war, of course, before we do so.
The fact that you even have to declare war as Beastmen seems kind of silly to me. No one is going to look at the Beastmen and be like, oh, look, it's a giant Minotaur. They must be friendly. Come have biscuits. No, it's just... You should just start out just like Chaos. Everyone hates you. No one's going to like you. It makes no sense to me. It should just be and who cares if I attack someone without declaring war on them? I'm a fucking Beastman. Basically, I'm a wild animal. What do I care if people think I'm untrustworthy?
Both these lords are level 1, but as we'd hoped, we've initiated an ambush battle, meaning the balance of power is definitely in our favour. That should make for an easy auto-resolve. Good stuff, and we have just enough action points left to hunt him down and finish the job. All right, let's move on towards Castle Bastogne, where our Bray herd is headed. Like a green-skinned war army, they'll be able to support us in battle, or we can simply give them war targets across the map. Now it's clear to see that this part of the world is all aflutter at the moment as the factions reorganise their forces to face the rampant new threat that we pose. All our early city raising has created a vacuum for Mousillon to exploit, which has helped destabilise the area somewhat. And our mere presence here, of course, means that chaos corruption is on the rise too. These gentle, courtly manlings barely know what's hitting them.
Frickin' 3 agents moved in one turn. I love how they said they're gonna try to decrease the effectiveness of the enemy agents, and maybe they still are, but frickin' you have 3 enemy agents surrounding your hordes when you don't have any counter agents already in it. That's gonna be a bitch.
And here's the result of our full moon dilemma choice. It's risen in earnest, and we're getting some hefty unit
See, like that, it says you get +1 turn. Like, it's only for 1 turn. You get a massive healing, your massive truth replenishment. So you get it for 1 turn, you know, instantly as soon as you click it what you're going to get. I think that's pretty cool. I mean, it makes sense. I don't know if it should be longer than 1 turn. Nitpicking, but it will be far nicer to have it instantly as soon as you purchase.
Management, plus a decent population growth buff as well, and the latter will certainly help out our new Beast Lord. Time to give Bastogne what for now, and if we can beat our Bray herd to the punch, we'll gain all the benefits of the victory while they stand in support of us.
If you notice, they had almost full replenishment on everything. As soon as they went in, it went away, so it looks like maybe you don't get that replenishment through sieging, which makes sense. However, just wanted to highlight, why the hell would the Beastmen need, or not even need, why would the Beastmen even use or know how to construct siege equipment? They're Beastmen. They might deal with a battering ram if they just chopped over a tree and started bashing it against the door, but they're not gonna organize or bother trying to use tools to make a freaking siege tower. It would make them harder, but the Beastmen should really, if anything, have a very crude, non-effective battering ram and just have to use ladders. I think that'd be far more Beastmen-like.
Which it looks like we're going to need, as we're woefully outgunned in this battle. Now, we've got a low to mid-tier army composition going on here, consisting of Kazrak himself, plus a handful of axe-wielding Gore herds, bow-toting Ungor raiders, who also get Vanguard deployment, and my personal favourite units in the Beastmen roster, Minotaurs. These thundering, monstrous infantry barrel along at a great pace, and along with their high mass, they knock packs of smaller units flying. Minotaurs are recruited from the Fire Pit building, and while we're here, let's take a quick look at the entire building tree. Now, the heart of a horde...
Actually, let's look at... So, as I was saying before, you have your main building, and you have 3 possible additional buildings. We'll let them get into it for a little bit.
Horde is its encampment building, and as you upgrade it, you'll unlock more growth, recruitment slots, increase the chaos...
If you notice, there's no... Unlike chaos, there's no decrease in upkeep within this tree. You'll see why later, but that's something just to make note of. Recruitment capacity goes up, your corruption goes up, and your growth automatically goes up, which is nice, the fact that you can get some passive growth.
Corruption your horde spreads, and of course, add new building slots. Now, as a horde of warmongering chaotic aberrations, the Beastmen have very little use for civic infrastructure, so the majority of their buildings unlock new recruitment options.
Okay, that is really Beastmen-like, the fact that they have no economy buildings, that there's nothing that produces income. And that you have to almost primarily focus on battling, raiding, and sacking. Absolutely 100% for it. Good job.
Up front, we have the Cloven Ones chain, which unlocks Ungors, Gors, and great weapon-wielding Bestigors. The Creatures chain brings varieties of Chaos Warhounds plus Chaos Spawn into play. Centaurs are super-fast bestial cavalry and come in 3 flavors: melee, axe throw...
See, like basic missile cav on the axe throwers. So unfortunately, those are skirmishing cav, which just seems weird. And I don't believe it's in the tabletop. I could be completely incorrect. I'm not super knowledgeable of tabletop, but I think tabletop only had the Ungor Raiders. So I'm not sure if I really like the whole skirmishing cav for Centigors thing.
And great weapons. Razor Gors are colossal, twisted, boar-like beasts which strike hard on their own.
So that other unit definitely was a chariot.
And even harder when pulling chariots. Minotaurs also come in 3 flavours: melee, melee shielded, and with great weapons. Now the Minotaur chain also enables recruitment of the Gorbel, the Minotaur hero character. And as a hero, he has a range of new skill types and can be extensively specialised to provide powerful battlefield support functions. Bray Shamans are spellcaster heroes which can be recruited to...
So we get a Bray Shamans at level 3, we get our additional hero at level 4. But let's see, they can scout, embed, block, assault, assassinate. So they'll have kind of the same thing as like a Chaos Sorcerer would have.
Master the lore of beasts, the lore of death, and the Beastman-specific lore of the wild.
I love the fact that they got the magic of wild and magic of beast for the Beastmen. I absolutely love the extra flavor, and I can't wait to try those out.
The Cygor is a towering bipedal...
Okay, the Cygor is awesome. It's a giant one-eyed monster that is actually technically blind and can only see magic, which is why it loves to target mages. And it doesn't actually say... It throws a giant stone that it ripped out of the ground or ripped out of like ancient tomb or something that has like a specific magical like symbol embedded into it, which is why you can see it. However, I don't know what it's going to do in terms of ammo, considering you can probably only lug so many of these around. And I would wish it actually would say like it would have a benefit for like attacking an enemy mage, like maybe if it throws this rock at a specific mage, it's a better chance to hit or something. But the other thing that we're missing here, I mean, the Cygors and the Giants are kind of on the same scale to kind of give you a size comparison. But the thing we're really missing, and the thing that people are most upset about in terms of the army comp, is the fact that we don't get Gorgons, which are basically a cross between a Minotaur and a Cyclops, but they're the same size of a Giant. So that is a huge letdown. And we are also missing Harpies and it's like the Hundefloof. It's like a really hard pronouncing name, or the Jabberwocky, who knows. It's a big, massive green, 4-legged lizard creature that just causes terror. But those are the 3 big things that we're missing from the Beastmen army, which is pretty small as it is. So when you look at like the Dwarves, Empire, Vampire Counts, Greenskins, leaving out a few units out of a very massive unit roster, yes, you might be upset, like let's say the Squigs. Yes, we missed the Squigs. We hopefully will get the Squigs at one time, but they gave us so many other units. It's not like if you're missing 1 out of 100, not that big of a deal. But for, let's say you're missing 5 out of 20, obviously the fraction's going up, so you're going to be noticing these missing units far more. So you could say, like, would you trade in the campaign for the full Beastmen roster? Yeah, I probably would have done that just to get Gorgons, Harpies, and the whatever you want to call it.
Creature that hurls massive magically imbued rocks at its enemies. So it's a form of living artillery, and with some riotously powerful combat stats, it's pretty handy in a fight too. And last but very much not least, Chaos Giants. Onto the support chains now, and the weapons structures bring armor and melee attack bonuses to every unit in the Horde. But it's the ruin...
Let's see, like +5, and I'm assuming it's probably like +10 or +15.
Nation chain that has one of the...
Okay, +10, and unit experience. I didn't notice that if you get it through the other building cheese or not.
greatest positive impacts on your Horde composition.
This is the nice one. Plus, you get minus quarter percentage, and then you'll see minus 50%. Those are both huge. Doesn't actually give us an idea how much they cost, but that's both huge. You lose your growth, but you gain your growth, and your towers go up, so it's probably more of a wash.
Like every faction, the Beastmen have a background income level of 2,500, but they have literally no income-producing structures. So, being able to reduce your unit upkeep by first 25% and later a whopping 50%, you're able to support high-level, high-upkeep units in your Horde and stay afloat. Coupled with further upkeep reductions in the Beast Lord skill tree and a steady diet of raiding and raising, there's a finely tuned balance at work.
So it looks like they will get their own flavor of, I'd say, campaign bonuses. They'll probably have the same kind of flavor, because you go to see Thick Skin, Devastating Charge. So their character points as well as their, battle effects points will probably be about the same.
Here. Even as your net costs rise, they can be managed back down to sensible and...
If you get negative 15 here, plus the 50, I mean, you're going to get negative 6, or you're going to get a 65% cut off of upkeep, which is huge, and also that's going to be so much fun. You can have almost the majority of your army be Minotaurs just for shits and giggles.
Even progressive levels, literally as the Horde develops. Okay, back to the map.
Actually, no, hold on, I lied. They're in a siege. They're preparing for a siege, and they have their... They're getting upkeep, or they're getting replenishment. Huh, interesting.
Crack on with some battering ram production here so we can get through the gates. Now we just have to wait a turn for our Grey Herd to catch up and support us.
Freaking another goddamn hero.
Now, the Beastmen are a rambunctious and chaotic lot, so their hordes will begin to suffer negative penalties to their bestial rage if you engage in collaborative diplomacy. They just don't like making friends. And while that's true even if you get diplomatic with the Warriors of Chaos, there is at least a modicum of dark kinship there. When they enter play mid-game, the Warriors of Chaos are neutral towards you, which beggars the question of whether you want to fight them, keep them on side, or even ally with them as they attempt to set the world alight. Our Grey Herd has caught up with us now, and as you can see, their support means that the siege has now tipped nicely in our favour. With odds like this, we can forego the siege tower construction and auto-resolve for a nice decisive victory. Now, as a Horde faction, and as you might imagine, the Beastmen don't inhabit settlements. They don't even sack settlements. These goats just want to watch the world burn. But crucially, you get two choices as to how to go about that. Raise and Defile wipes the settlement off the map and erects a blasphemous herdstone in its place.
Mine plus 100 chaos corruption. Woo! If you... That's that. If that's in the local region, if most regions only have, what, 3 settlements, 2 settlements, that is gonna be... You're gonna almost decimate the remaining settlement or settlements within no time. They're gonna have revolts constantly. That is huge. As you probably could balance it out where you defile one, raise the rest, or defile the very first one, weaken the rest of them, and then raise the rest. Who knows? But that is huge. Plus 100.
Now this thing drops a bomb of chaos corruption.
That doesn't even count all your character bonuses and everything else. Anyway.
In the province, and gives your hordes a hefty growth buff to boot, helping it to develop quicker. However, if you're low on cash, you can simply loot the place silly before hurling the torches at the thatch, thus netting you a juicy pile of income. We're actually moderately well off right now, with over 19,000 favour in our furry pockets, so we're going to go ahead and defile the place. Regions are further corrupted by our forces simply being here, and when that corruption starts to peak, chaos rebellions can rise up to attack the local...
a giant shrine to the chaos gods made out of beastmen fecal matter. Oh, the joy.
...inhabitants. Now, there are other ways in which to enhance chaos corruption, not least in the tech tree, and like many other aspects of the Beastmen, it's pretty unique. The trees on the left bring numerous...
Okay, so we're going to see this. They'll have their benefits, but almost all of them, minus a few that he highlights, have this -5 research rate, which he'll just get
enhancements to the combat stats of various units, alongside improvements to various campaign-side resources, such as income provision from various activities, attrition, and casualty replenishment. However, the more you research, the slower your research
this one doesn't, for some odd reason, have a minus research rate.
Becomes. After all, Beastmen aren't given to matters academic and easily tire of them. The chain on the right undoes this deceleration.
Okay, so each one of these has a plus 20% the research rate. So every 4 of your standard research rates, I'm just going to lump this one into it as well. So you have 22 over here, all of which maybe have -5 percentage. Which means that every 4, if you up one of these, you're back at baseline. However, since there's 5 here, so the fact that there's 5 here, if you go up to this last one before you do all of these, you actually will get a little bit of a boost. You might, if you have enough money, just powerhouse through this and just get all your first tier ones that much quicker. But yeah, so you will be able to supersede or exceed the negative by getting all these positives.
Over time by boosting the research rate back up again, as well as intensifying the chaos corruption your characters generate. These only take a single turn to research, but rise in cost quite sharply by 5,000 favour per unlock. This means that if you stay buoyant, you can power your way through the tech tree that much quicker. And in a nutshell, that really kind of sums up this new take on Horde gameplay offered by the Beastmen.
Actually, no, I lied. I did my math wrong. You'll be able to exceed if that 20. The fact that only one of those had that one of them did not have a negative. That means you have at least 21 that potentially are negative. Let's say even if it's 20, you'll break even if you do all the positive recruitment or the positive research rates bonus. That's a quick correction.
With no horde infighting attrition and with plenty of buffable replenishment through techs and events, they're built to offer a really fluid campaign with less downtime. With hordes working together on the campaign map, you'll be fighting and raising frequently, and we haven't even started on their capabilities in battle, which offers super fast, hard-hitting army builds that can wrong-foot, kite, and tear the flanks out of more traditional armies. Fast, furious, and feral to a fault, they are altogether beastly. Tune in again on Thursday this week when we'll be showing the Beastmen doing what they do best in the thick of battle.
So that is the Beastmen for you, and I actually, at first I was excited just from the concept of them. I was a little bit hesitant by seeing what we actually were getting with them, at the price point and everything else, but after seeing this and after hearing some more of the finer details, yeah, I know it's a black screen. I'm actually getting far more excited for them. I actually think they'll be a really fun faction to play. I don't know if I agree from a business standpoint with CA in terms of what they're giving us, with the amount they're giving us, and cutting out some of the bigger tier units. But purely from a gameplay standpoint and from a, just from what I feel like I'll enjoy, like how much more I'll enjoy the game, I'm definitely excited for them. So kudos for CA with capturing, I would say, some of the bigger points of how Beastmen should play and how they actually will play, whether it's on the campaign map or even on the battlefield. So that is really cool. For all those out there that are listening that maybe don't know whether or not they want to get the Call of the Beastmen DLC, I can already tell you that I purchased it so that you didn't, and that if you want, or if you want to wait to see, I'll be doing a dedicated Let's Play starting on day one when this releases, just so everyone can kind of see what it's like. And plus, I think I'm going to really enjoy it, so I want to do it anyway just to have fun with it. So until then, I have been Atomic Zero of Addicted to Loot. Thank you for joining me. Please drop a like, comment, or even better, please subscribe. Hope to see you soon.